So, 7th grade, Tuesday, April 21. The focus today is on the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is all about right triangles. So you will see all these examples we're going to be looking at. They're all right triangles with the right 90-degree angle there, a right angle there, a right angle there. And so the idea that the Pythagorean theorem states that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The idea being is that two of the sides of the triangle, okay, A and B, equal c squared. Now, c is always the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the long side of the triangle, which is opposite of the right angle. So here in this second example, there's the right angle, there's the hypotenuse. In this third example we're going to do, there's the right angle, there's the hypotenuse. It really doesn't matter which one you use as A and B. What's important is that C is the hypotenuse, which is the one opposite the right angle. So when I look at this first example, I want to remember that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So that's what I'm thinking about. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I go to my calculator here, and I'm not going to show my calculator on the screen, but you can kind of be using it as I'm talking along. My A is going to be 21. I'm going to make A 21. So I'm going to go 21, and I'm going to square that, and I get 441. Okay. Then I'm going to take 28, and I'm going to square that, and I'm going to get 784. And so when I add those, 784 plus 441, that equals 1,225. So from there, I can establish that c squared equals 1,225. Now, this goes back to what we were talking about yesterday now with square roots. I don't want to know what c squared is. I need to know what c equals. That is what I am supposed to solve. So now that I've got a 1,225 in my calculator, I'm just going to press my square root button, and I'm going to see that c equals 35. So let's go to the next example. All right. Here, now this one's a little different because I know the hypotenuse. Okay. What I don't know is what a is. So I'm going to have a squared plus, and b is going to be 15. All right. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to do 15, and I'm going to square that, and that's going to be 225. And that's going to equal c squared. Now remember, the hypotenuse is always c. So that's opposite the right angle. So for c, I'm going to plug in 17. I'm going to square that, 17 times 17. That's going to equal 289. Now I'm just going to do what I know about equations, okay? And I'm just going to isolate a squared by subtracting 225 from both sides. I get 4. 9 minus 5 is 4. 8 minus 2 is 6. 2 minus 2 is nothing. So I get a squared equals 64. Without a calculator, I should know that the square root of 64 is 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. But if you want to just double check that, if you punch in 64, then press your square root button. Sure enough, a is going to equal 8. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and this works with decimals as long as you get the right numbers. Once again, I see that c, my hypotenuse, that's what's opposite the right angle, that's 7.3. So I'm going to go ahead and punch in 7.3. I'm going to square that. I'm going to see that that equals 53.29. So I know everything is going to equal 53 and 2900ths. I'm also going to have 4.8. That's going to be my A. So I'm going to punch into my calculator 4.8. I'm going to square that. I'm going to see that that equals 23.04. So 23.04 plus B squared equals 53.29. So I need to get B squared by itself. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to subtract 23 and 400ths from both sides. That's not hard. Essentially what I'm doing is 53.29 minus 23.04. 9 minus 4 is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. Drop the decimal. 53 minus 23 is 30. And so I'm going to bring it up top. I'm going to see that b squared equals 30.25. All right? So now I've got to find the square root. So I'm going to plug in 30.25. I'm going to press my square root button, and amazingly enough, I get a nice clean answer of 5.5. And that's my final answer there. So the first part of your assignment on page 520, that is what you're doing. You're using that Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and you're figuring out the unknown. The key to remember is that the hypotenuse, the one opposite the right angle, is always c. That one always has to be c. What you use for a or b really doesn't matter. Now, what you're doing on pages 521, numbers 11 through 13, this is a little different now. I'm telling you to find the value of x. Boy, that just doesn't seem to be matter what we're doing, does it, 7th grade? There always seems to be the opportunity to have directions that say find the value of x. One of my personal favorite. So here we have an interesting figure. We see we have a rectangle here at the bottom, and then we have a right triangle. So the fact that we have a right triangle, the fact that the whole first section was about the Pythagorean theorem, common logic needs to tell us, 7th grade, that we are going to be using the Pythagorean theorem of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Somehow that is going to have to come in to the work on this problem here. So let's see what we do know. First of all, we know this is a rectangle. So we know that if this side is 63, this side has to be 63. So the bottom of my triangle, I know, is 63 centimeters. I also know that since this is a rectangle, that if this is 16, this side also has to be 16. All right, those are things I should just know. Now, these little lines here, remember we've talked about these before. Those little lines are the indicator that these two parts are the same, which means if this line here is 16, with that little mark there shows those two are congruent and equal, this one also must be 16 centimeters. And now I have enough information to implement the Pythagorean theorem to figure out my hypotenuse, which is the side opposite my right angle. I'm just going to do a squared, which is 16. So I'm going to do 16 squared. I'm going to go to my calculator, punch in 16, square that. I get 256. I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to punch in 63. I'm going to square that. I'm going to get 3,969. And that all equals c squared. Now if I actually add those together, 3,969 plus 256, I get 4,225. So c squared equals 4,225. But I don't want to know what c squared equals. I need to know what c equals. I need this length right here. So I just press my square root button with 4,225 still on display, and I get a nice clean answer of 65. And that tells me that x must equal 65 centimeters. And in a right triangle, ladies and gentlemen, the hypotenuse is always the longest side. And sure enough, 16, 63, the hypotenuse is 65. All right, we got one more here today. This looks like a fun one. Here I have two right triangles. So I have a smaller right triangle here, and I have a larger right triangle here. And it seems apparent to me that the key side that we're missing is this one right here. All right, now to figure out this one, I'm going to have to use these two. I don't have enough information in my larger triangle to figure that out. Now, I just realized I didn't put x in there, and that's where x is supposed to be. I'm sorry, that's the one we're trying to figure out. So to figure this out, I'm going to have to figure this one out. So I'm going to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to use 5 for a, And so 5 squared is 25. I don't need a calculator for that. Plus b squared, I don't know what b squared is. So 25 plus b squared, because that's b. C, remember, has to be my hypotenuse. Okay? And so if c is 13, when I square 13, I get 169. I can do that without my calculator. But now I know to isolate b squared, I've got to subtract 25 from both sides. So I'm going to come over here. 9 minus 5 is 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. 1 minus nothing is 1. I'm going to get b squared equaling 144. I should know without a calculator, but you can punch in it if you need to, that the square root of 144 is 12. So b equals 12. So I get this length right here that I now know is 12 meters. Here's the catch, 7th grade. A lot of times once we figure something out, we tend to think, oh, we're done. But this would, remember, this is not where x was. X is over here. We just needed to be able to solve for x. We need to have figured out what this was. We figured out now that that was 12. Now I can implement the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to figure out this here. Well, first of all, if I plug in 35 for a, I go to my calculator, 35, I square it, I get 1,225. So I'm going to write that up here, 1,225. Now b for my bigger triangle is going to be 12. I remember from my previous problem that, well, 12 squared is 144. So I can add 144, and that's going to equal c squared. 1,225 plus 144 should equal 1,369, and it does. C squared equals 1,369. If c squared equals 1,369, while you have 1,369 on display in your calculator, just go ahead and press the square root button, and it's going to tell you that c equals 37. And if c equals 37, x must be 37 meters. And once again, we can confirm that the hypotenuse is the longest side. This one's 37, this one's 35, just a little bit shorter. This one's significantly shorter at 12. And there is how we do that. So we'll talk about this on Tuesday, April 21. All right, talk to you later. Bye.